C236, a helping hand with your land.
Neil from Messick's here today out in a New Holland C237. New Holland's come out with a lot of new skid loader model options lately, and some of them are particularly interesting to me. So we're going to take a couple minutes here today, walk around and show you some of the things that make this machine unique. New Holland's model numbering is particularly confusing to a lot of people. This generation of machine, what they refer to as the 200 series, came out in 2011. Some years later now, there's been literally thousands of changes that have happened from that first generation unit, and we're now into what's referred to as the 200 series. So even though you haven't seen the model numbers change dramatically on this machine since it was first introduced, there have in fact been literally thousands of changes that have been applied to it through factory suggestions and product improvements that make this a very different product than it was years ago. One of the other interesting things that's happened too since that machine first came out 7 years ago now is all the changes that have happened for emissions. So a lot of company resources from all of our manufacturers are really tied up in the transition from Tier 3 to Tier 4. And in a lot of cases, we saw a reduction in the amount of models that were offered. That's starting to flip now, though. New Holland is taking the skid loader platforms and going the opposite direction and starting to offer a lot more variations in the skid loader models to really make them unique for specific applications. So what is it that makes this machine unique? So this is a C237, so those model numbers do actually mean something on these things. The C is going to be the track loader series, 2 being the 200 series machines, and the 37 tells us that we've got 3,700 pounds of lift capacity. So New Holland has a lot of models in this series, and those numbers are always going to tell you the lift capacity of the machine. The details beyond that, though, you got to know a little bit about what you're looking at. So what makes this machine unique is its relationship between its frame size and its engine horsepower. So this is a large frame machine. Obviously, to lift 3,800 pounds, you got to have a big frame and a big machine, and this has it. So it's the large frame machine with the large tracks underneath of it, giving it about 4.5 pounds per square inch of ground pressure underneath that substantial track system. Interestingly enough, in those large frames, a lot of companies are really providing you large engines to go with them. This one does not. This is a little different from that. So even though this is a large frame machine capable of lifting those heavy loads, it's a 75 horsepower Iveco engine in it. And by being 75 horsepower, it dips underneath the need for DEF. So this is a machine that does not require DEF fluid. You don't need to add DEF to it and have that consumed during the operating time of your engine. It's also a dock-only design, so it does not have a diesel particulate filter, and it requiring a regen cycle. So a lot of those negative impressions that guys have about a lot of current emissions tier engines, you don't need to worry about it with this machine and in this engine class. And uniquely, you're getting that engine in this large frame design. So obviously we're going to have pros and cons and some trade-offs to some of those engineering decisions, right? So by having a small engine in a big heavy machine, this unit is going to be good for some things and not for others, right? So big heavy frame, big substantial boom, big lift capacity is going to give us a lot of load carrying capability, right? So 3,700 pounds of lift capacity, fantastic for lifting heavy loads, moving big square bales and that kind of stuff. But where is its shortcoming, right? Big frame, small engine, it does not push like a higher horsepower machine does. So if you've got a lot of agricultural applications and material handling applications, this could be a great fit for you. You don't have to buy the horsepower, you have the avoidance of a lot of emissions technologies, and giving you the capacities that you need to really get around and move those heavy loads. So interesting offering. Along with the material handling slant of this machine is New Holland's Super Boom. So radial and vertical lift machines are very common in the industry. Radial lifts hinge from one point and arc up and down. They're not very good for loading things because the loads come backwards as you go up. Vertical lifts are fairly common. They tend to go straight up and down, making them really easy to get over the sides of trucks and giving you high lift capacity or high height capacities. But New Holland has a different design, so they have what they call the patented Super Boom. Been around for a long time, very proven in the industry. One of the first vertical lift designs, but Super Boom goes a little bit further than that. Not only is it a vertical lift, as it gets up to the top of its lift curve, its lift height, it starts to go forward just a couple of inches. So if you're, say, loading over the side of a truck or something, you've got a little bit more reach than you do on any other boom design. So what if your application is not just a lift and carry type application like this machine is geared for? Well, there are other variations of these models that allow you to buy kind of a purpose-built machine for your application. So C238 is going to be a higher horsepower, a 90-odd horsepower version of this same machine. Now, we're moving up into the class that requires DEF, but if you've got the application that you need that horsepower for those heavy pushing applications, you have an option here. You can go to a 238. Also, you have an option to C234, again, taking the same frame with that same higher horsepower engine, but rather than having the super boom design, having a radial lift machine. Now, radial lift machines aren't great for those material transport applications because of their curved boom path, but that curved path and the geometry of those booms is better for pushing. They're better for those dozer type applications, for grading and pushing a lot of material around. So by mixing and matching different technologies of engines and booms, New Holland is creating a series and a family of machines that you can tailor to your specific application. So as you can see, New Holland offers a really complete line of skid loaders. There's a lot of purpose-built models for a lot of purposed applications. There's also a lot of variety though too in the way that the cabs can be configured. So you'll find options like open station or closed station machines, hydraulic couplers, and different control patterns. The control patterns are a thing that I find particularly interesting. So New Holland, coming from an agricultural background, does still offer this in a mechanical hand and foot controlled design. A lot of companies in this space have stopped offering that option, as most customers have moved on to pilot controls now. But New Holland, with their agricultural background, still has a good customer base who prefer that control pattern, so it is an option in these machines. These pilots are electronic pilots. There's 4 different sensitivity options for every direction that you're going to move these around, along with the choice of ISO or H pattern. C and H being Case New Holland. H pattern is a very common control pattern on Case machines, and so in the Case versioning of this machine, which we also do sell, you're going to find a lot more operators coming from that H pattern world, and that is an option in this machine as well. One thing that I appreciate on C&H products is that you can tell that their parent company has afforded them some automotive engineering resources. When you sit and you look around the cab and you think through ergonomics, there's clear that a experienced eye has been given to a lot of the layout of these things. So when I'm sitting here in the seat, I got a really comfortable location for where my pilot controls are at. I can rest my arms right here on top of the lap bar as opposed to having to go back here on the side where I might have armrests. There's also a huge amount of adjustability in the positioning of these pods. So I've got knobs back here to be able to move them front and back and also up and down to place them in the ideal position for me, because operators come in all different shapes and sizes. I could also have all of my buttons and controls in my visibility right here as I'm operating the machine. So, you know, if I'm out looking ahead of myself for where I'm working, I can see my fuel level, my hour meter, and everything right here on the pillars where all of the information is at, not buried up here in the corner somewhere. So that's nice. Visibility in this machine is okay, to be honest. Radial lift machines are a little bit better as they tend to have different positioning on their booms and are a little bit easier to see out of. Vertical lifts, you'll notice, block your visibility here at the sides a little bit more than radials do. But I do have some good things though as well. Sitting here in the seat, I can look up and see out of my high visibility panel, and I also have a really wide mirror here as well up at the top that I can see right out the back of the machine and also out the sides to my back corners as well. Unfortunately, there's often a lot of accidents and injuries involving people around skid loaders, as these are difficult machines to see out of. So some of that added visibility there certainly gives some safety factor to the people around you. So if you spend time watching my other videos on YouTube, you know by now that I'm a big fan of application. I'm not just buying a machine because it's convenient to you or you like your salesperson for some reason, but buying a machine for the task that you have at hand. And I appreciate the fact that New Holland's line of skid and track loaders give us that ability to take a customer's application and sell a machine that's tailor-made for the chore that they have at hand, rather than taking a one-size-fits-all approach. So if you're going through the buying process and you have questions about about the equipment that you're considering buying, give us a call at Messick's. We've also got a great team of guys to help with any parts needs that you might have, machines that you've already got, and service technicians to help repair anything that you might have as well. We're available at 800-222-3373 or online at Messick's.com.